Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Breaking the Cycles. I'm Laziena. I'm usually here with my daughter to see it, but today she's a little bit busy, so we'll give her a little excuse. But I have with me Victoria, who has we connected online, and I sat with her and we had a really awesome conversation, and I felt that her story is so powerful. Hi, Victoria.
Hello.
So tell me, um, what's been one of your favorite thing about today?
Well, you are my second podcast today. I had an unexpected one earlier. We just connected online, and she said, if you can squeeze me in, we can do it before the other one. And we've been trying to connect for a minute, and it worked out. And I was like, God is good all the time. When the enemy is trying to come against something really powerful, that's when hiccups start happening. But God always prevailed, and He did today, and it's been a great day.
Thank you so much for being a guest today. Our usual question that we ask anyone that's on this particular podcast is, how have you broken cycles in your life?
Well, you know, when tragic things happen, it can take somebody down a path that they sometimes never recover from. For me, how I broke that was my faith and relationship with God.
Mhm.
And staying, resilient in what I knew that um, I had a new purpose now. And it was unfolding back then, and I didn't realize it until years later. God has that innate way of, you know, a prophetic word came over me saying, what the enemy caused for harm, God turned it around for his glory, and I get to reap the benefits. And I think about that every time the enemy is attacking me. And I'm like, I know God is going to turn it around, and he always does. And it may not be right away, but when he does, it's divine timing. And that's the only way it works.
So can you tell us a little bit about something that you faced and you had to overcome?
I faced a lot of depression
Mhm.
because I was 19 years old when I had the accident, and my life was turned upside down. I walked out of my apartment that morning and I never went back. My life that I knew um, didn't exist anymore. I had a different way of living, and I had plans. And I say that because they were my plans. I can't say they were necessarily God's plan, but it's what I wanted to do. And now, because of the accident, I couldn't do that. And I was like, now what am I going to do? And, there was 3 months of rehab where I was 6 hours away from my family, my friends, my boyfriend. I was by myself. I was the only female patient on the rehab floor. The other, I think there were like 6 other men, so I could only talk to the nurses, and it you know, it it was lonely, but sometimes God has to isolate you for you to grow the most. I learned how to write again with a writing utensil. I learned how to brush my teeth, how to even feed myself. I had to learn that all over again because every time I put the fork or the spoon on, I was so incredibly weak that my hand would wave like this, and I felt like I was chasing my fork to get a bite of food. And I had to build that strength up. I had to work out again. There were things that I had to relearn, and I could have just been angry, depressed, but I knew that that one isn't me. My family would not know what to do if I came home with an attitude like that. So I had to make the decision to change my mindset. Was I going to be a victim to the situation or am I going to be victorious? And I was given the name Victoria for a reason. So victorious, took first place, and I just always focus on the positive. No matter what is going on, there's something positive in that. May not be what you want at the moment, but it's what you need in that moment. And it's not going to last forever, but it's going to be there to get you to the next step. And depression it took me a good 3 months to battle with that, to get out my anger. Because when I went home, I did not want to show that to my family, my friends, my boyfriend. They wouldn't, like I said, they wouldn't know how, interpret that because that's not Vic. She doesn't act that way. She's always the dear Abby with the advice and, always has a good attitude. So I knew I had to battle all those demons in that 3 months. And I cried, I laughed, and I just was like, okay, God, let's see what comes next. I want to go home. I want to live the life that I'm going to live from this chair that you are guiding my footsteps by. And 3 months later, on February 2nd, I left and went home.
So, what was your life like before the accident?
Well, I was 19. I was a freshman in college. I had just finished my freshman year and I was working. When I was going to school, I was going for business management so that I could get an official degree, not just learning the business from seventh grade until I graduated. My dad felt it was important that I have a college education so that people wouldn't question my ability to run a business like what my dad had. So that was my plan to 4 years of college. But after the first year, that summer is when in October is when I had the accident. And I didn't want to go back and be stared at, have to have somebody help me write or take notes or record it. It just, because I was so used to doing everything by myself. I was very independent. I was very structured and focused on where I thought I was headed. I didn't want to have to rely on anyone any more than I was already doing to get up and ready in the morning for the day. So it was a little bit of ego, pride. I could have gone back. I could have probably hired somebody to help me, but I decided to work with vocational rehab for 2 years, and I got quick in typing with the typing utensil. So it's like one finger typing, and I was proficient enough that I was able to go back to work full time. And working at the judicial department for the state of Oregon there, it was the best rehab I could have ever had. Knowing it was okay to ask for help and receive it, that was huge, not only just from myself, but for the person that was helping me. It gave them a sense of purpose more than just their job. They actually did something to help someone that they knew, that they saw the benefit of it. And I took that and I ran with it. When I would be out and about, I would let strangers help me and, open that door with them to have a conversation, have them help me carry something out to the van or hold my water bottle or get my credit card out of my wallet. And they would be, you're going to trust me to do that? And I said, well, I'm sure these people behind you will run after you if you take off with it.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty safe. So,
So I think it's so interesting because you were 19, getting ready to go to college. You had the life of your dreams planned out. You were going to join your dad's business or take it over or whatever that looked like. and you were already the dear Abby of everybody that you know, someone that was there to listen, to help, to serve. And then you had this pretty tragic accident, and you decided that you were going to not let that stop you. So what was it?
Well,
So you had this dream and it didn't work out that way, but like you said, you now have a newer life, one that's filled with purpose. What are the differences in what you thought you were going to do versus what you are doing now?
I knew that my interaction before the accident, dealing with customers satisfaction, and my dad owned a wallpaper store. And I used to joke, if I can sell wallpaper, I can sell anything. And you'd have to work with the customer to find a pattern that they were looking for, or, a border that they wanted, wallpaper. You had to get them to realize that that was something that they needed and could transform their entire home with wallpaper. And to be able to do that and decorate, the customers' homes was, I loved it. I enjoyed it. And that was my focus of the interaction. Now my interaction is through social media, being like a guest speaker on different podcasts and sharing my story, my testimony, because it's my passion to empower and inspire, motivate individuals to fulfill their purpose and reach their destiny. It is never too late. I mean, I'm 57 years young, and this year I've done like 15 different podcasts, if not a little more. And I was like, a friend of mine pointed that out to me. And I was like, wow, God is good on opening these doors. And, I know next year is going to be a breakthrough year. I just feel it. A couple of people have told me when they've heard my story that 2026 is going to be my year. And I was like, wow. And I claim that. The interaction through social media is making it easier for me because I don't have a wheelchair accessible vehicle that I can get out and about and talk to people. I do it this way or through a Zoom or, something that, uh, whatever form of conferencing that the host has, that's how we communicate. Now, I mean, I'm a co-author on a collaborative book that's on Amazon called Still We Rise. 10 of us took a chapter and wrote it, and it, relationships, marriage, family. Mine is on financial freedom. It's individuals that have put their heart and soul into this book, and it can be used for anyone, able-bodied or in different situations, to learn and grow from. And after I wrote my chapter, I was like, that was pretty easy. I think it's time to do my book. So it took me a month, and now it's been 4 months of tweaking and fine tuning. And I'm hoping to get it published before Christmas. And it's called Whiplash, but Not Broken. Just a story of faith and resilience. And I refuse to give up. And it talks about the accident, rehab, relationships, everything that I've gone through in my 9 chapters, a Reader Digest version of it somewhat. And if it's used to inspire at least one person, then I did what I was supposed to do. If it does many others, that's even better. Um, if I can do what I'm doing from a chair, what is stopping anyone else?
So right. Now you have been in a chair since you were 19, since the accident.
37 years.
You had or have a life that wasn't bound by limitations.
No, they were kind of a surprise, but when I found out that I was pregnant, I was like, ugh, okay, you've got to take care of me because there's not a lot of room when you're sitting in the chair
Yeah.
for a baby to grow. And they were both low birth weight babies. Daniel was 5'7", 18.5 inches. Sarah was 4'12" and 18.25 inches. And she was a month premature. I
Yeah.
think if she had been full term, she probably would have been the same size as her brother or maybe a little bigger. I was able to give birth to them naturally, and
That's
it,
incredible. That is
it
incredible. Like, hats off to you. That's that's fantastic. I
no
can't
thanks.
imagine.
It was definitely an experience that I was glad that I was able to have. Just to say that, yep, I know what childbirth is like, the labor pain, all of that. I mean, with my son, I felt like I had pulled every muscle from my neck down to my tailbone. She was so little that she started coming down when I was only 6 centimeters dilated. She
She wanted
wanted
to
to
be
make
you.
She did. She was going to make her presence known, and she has, that is for sure.
Oh, wow. How old are your kids now, if you don't mind me asking?
Daniel is 29 and Sarah is 27. Daniel's going to be 30 in February.
Yeah.
And I'm not with their dad anymore. Unfortunately, the three marriages that I've had are all ending in divorce because I'm currently in the process of filing for divorce now. It's been tough the last 5.5 years. So I'm looking for that new beginning, that breakthrough next year. Um, I'm just being patient and waiting on God to guide my steps.
Someone with a compassionate heart like you, because to endure what you have and you have such a positive outlook on it, you definitely need to be around people who can raise that vibration too, not take from you, but add value to your life. It's just something that you so deserve. Like you literally had to reteach yourself how to eat. So I think that someone that comes into your life would wanna honor that and honor that journey.
And it's not like I have anything to hide. I'm an open book.
Mhm.
Ask me and I will give you an answer because I'd rather somebody know the truth
Right.
than ask the wrong person. So I'm always open and honest with, whoever I choose to date. And they know everything from the very beginning.
Mhm.
So sometimes well, not sometimes, all the time when they change their mind or they leave because they don't want the responsibility anymore, or they're getting older and they want an easier life or whatever. So then that means that I have to be on the end of being mistreated. That's not fair. That they wouldn't like it. So it's just better for me to
Yeah.
get out of this situation as soon as I can and move on and be happy and not feel like I'm walking on eggshells all the time.
Exactly. That's yeah, that walking on eggshell, I find that was something that I did a lot of myself, and I tried to give disclaimers as well as walking on the eggshell, but nothing worked. And there was something that you said earlier that really resonated with me is when you're able, both parties, and this was referencing the person who helped you when you was working at the rehab with the rehab. Sometimes most of the time we have to be able to receive because if we're not able to receive that becomes a resentment over time, and so it's really like illuminating to me when there are people who are able to receive naturally, with compassion. That's somebody who's really gone through something, a transformation within themselves or an ego death within themselves to be able to trust and also receive. Referencing the power of being able to receive. And when we're with partners, if they're not able to receive, it just goes sideways. So I like that you gave yourself the chances in life to still overcome whatever it is that you were going through and still push forward and have a life, have children, and continue to do good work. It has not stopped you. It's really beautiful.
Because I try to live my life with as little drama as possible.
Yeah.
So when I see it coming, I walk away. I don't entertain it. I don't give it the power that it needs
Yeah.
and that it's wanting to pick a fight or poke the bear. And I just find something different to do. Go outside, go into the bedroom, get out of that space. And I find that the more I take my power back, my voice especially, sometimes I have to talk back.
Yeah.
And it's not always the nicest things, but it's like it's what gets to them because that's how they talk. And I don't like being pushed into that type of situation to where I have to counteract that way because I'm not somebody
That's
who
not you.
normally
Yeah.
uses foul language. I wasn't raised that way, and that's not the way that I lived before this marriage. And so I pick and choose my battles, and now mean to where I'm gonna have um a release and I'm looking forward to that and I'll be safe and I'll be in an environment that is positive and uplifting, supportive and encouraging. Know that you have value, you have worth, and you don't need to entertain that. Walk away.
Yeah.
And that right there is a huge strength.
That's so empowering too that you're taking that action. You're not letting your disability, or not even disability, your limitation, put you in a situation where you have to stay. I think a lot of the women, and myself included, have felt like I have to stay because this is the only thing that I can do, or, whatever comes up in that situation. You're still empowered to make decision that brings you happiness and peace.
Right. Because if you don't know your value and your worth, then the other person is just going to take you for granted
Yeah.
and not appreciate you. But if you know what you deserve and you walk boldly in that, they don't see that and they don't recognize that. Walk away. Do not even entertain it because it's only going to end in disaster. We can't change the other person.
And we can't really control somebody else's mindset either. We can only do what's best for us. So before we wrap up today, what is just a message that you would want the listeners to know?
That it is never too late to fulfill your purpose and reach your destiny, to live the life that God intended you to live and be happy. Don't live your life with regrets
Yeah.
and make sure at the end of the day, you can close your eyes and you know that what you've done was good. You made amends if you needed to, but that you can close your eyes and look forward to tomorrow if that's what we're blessed to have. Because we're not promised a tomorrow. So we have to make the best of every day. And that's just what I can tell people because life can turn on a dime.
Yeah.
And one moment I walked out of my apartment and I never walked back in. What I mean about life can turn on a dime. Appreciate what you have, the little things, because in the end, they're the biggest things to appreciate. And I don't know, I guess um, for those that are able bodied or that are coming into contact with those that are in different situations, I don't use the word disability. I use situation. Disability puts a negative connotation. So the wheelchair doesn't define who I am, by which I get around these days.
Yeah.
See the person in the situation, whether they have a walker, a cane, a scooter, a manual chair, it doesn't matter. See the individual for who they are, for all that they've accomplished to get to where they are, in life because it's hard work. And when you try to regain as much of your independence, it can be a lifelong journey. So I guess just look at the individual and really get to know them. And you're probably in for an amazing journey and a story of empowerment.
I love that. Thank you so much. I'm glad that we finally made this happen. I know it was a little misscheduling on my part. So thank you very much for the grace. And I really loved having conversation with you and to our listeners. I love Victoria's story of empowerment. It's a really beautiful journey. And I hope that you all find something, a nugget in there for yourself. And we'll see you on the next episode.